Well, hello and welcome back to our podcast, Ayahuasca Assisted Therapy. Today is another special edition, special episode. I'm just like so happy to be here with my sister, Sherry. And we were just saying that it's like almost 10 years that we met the first and the last time in person. And yeah, Sherry is my dear sister who I went to Peru with. Well, I met her on that trip. Like we didn't go together, but she was part of that group, which I was part of. In the Amazon with the Shipibos on this plant medicine dieta. That my whole journey started with this medicine in 2012. So yeah, we kept in touch a little bit through social media, and now she's here in Mexico where I live, doing a little vacation and just taking some time off. And it's just like we were just saying that I feel this with a lot of people, who you sit with multiple times with the medicine that you just bond, and it's really a family. And we were saying that, it was just like we met like last week or something. It was just that connection and that sisterhood. So I'm just like so happy and also excited, from the perspective of this. Podcast where we talk about the preparation and the integration, because Sherry has this unique story that she did that medicine journey, and she will tell you more about it. And then that was her journey with the mother ayahuasca. So I was really curious about, and we had this chat on the beach yesterday, that how is her spiritual path and her healing journey have been, since we took that big leap of faith and that step, in the Peruvian jungle. And yeah, we just shared a little bit, and she has so much wisdom and light and love to share, that I thought that it would be great to record this so other people can also receive, all these gifts and the beauty and the love and the wisdom, that we gathered along our path. So thank you, sister, for doing this with me. And so happy to have you here. Welcome. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and whatever you think people should know about you right now, if you want to share anything about you or where you are in your life.
Well, thank you, Nina, for having me on your podcast. And I am more than happy to share where I've been since that journey. So basically what I have found is that working with the mother, there were certain things that I wasn't able to release at that time that I was still holding. And since then I've released that. But what the mother basically did for me was help me to go further inward to myself. And that has helped me in so many ways to realize without judgment that everyone has trauma and pain, and it's okay for that to come up, to look at it, to accept it, to not judge yourself about it, and let it be with you, let it sit with you yourself, and then you can release it with love. So the journey itself was quite an experience. It was very dynamic and on many levels, but that is what I've come to know about the mother and myself. And using the mother, she's always with me, and I can always call on her to assist when necessary. So it has actually helped me heal a lot of trauma and pain, and more actually of understanding myself and others around me. And it really allows me to be non-judgmental. It helped me define my boundaries of who I am as a woman, as a human, and not judge others for where they are on their journey, because everyone is at a different level. And so it's more of an acceptance of our humanness and what we came here to do as humans. But actually, we are so much more than that. We have so much more power than what we think we do. So,
right.
yeah.
Did you have like a specific intention why you went to Peru at that time? Did you have like, okay, I want to figure this out, or I want to work on this, or something like that? Or you were just like, no, this is a calling, I just have to do, I'm curious, and I just trust that whatever needs to arise will surface.
Yes, I did have specific intentions for going, and the basic intention was for my own personal healing, because I thought if I healed myself, it would resonate out to my family and help heal the whole dynamic. But it was actually like lighting a stick of dynamite.
First, but in the long run, it did create more harmony in the family, correct?
Yes, of course.
But first is the
the
blow up.
explosion. Yes. And so,
so true.
Yeah, no, I'm really grateful for the insight that it brought. I feel like it's given me a closer connection to the divine, right? And I don't always get the answers like I think I should, right? But they do come, and it's just like it's like an invisible guidance system totally. Within myself, because she's always there.
The internal guidance.
Yes.
Yeah. And many people, and I have the same experience, that you don't need to drink all the time the ayahuasca to feel that connection, but actually, as you said earlier, you can connect to her energy and call her in and communicate with her even long after the ceremony. And as far as I know, that was the only ceremony that you did, right, when you were in Peru, and that was like part of your journey, and you never felt really called afterwards, like in the last 10 years, to physically go back and drink more ayahuasca, correct?
Correct.
Right. But we talked about that. Still during this time, it's kind of like a never-ending journey. So tell us a little bit, how did you continue that healing and put into practice what you learned from her, and what were your tools and resources that you kept using during the years to kind of keep going on this path of healing?
Basically, she brought me to where I could go within myself and not look for external validation and answers. So in my meditation and my prayer, the answers would come, maybe not when I had expected them, but it just, she just sits with me, and she's gentle on me now. And I'm grateful for that. I have a couple of times in the US where I live, there are groups that do participate with the medicine, but I have been hesitant to follow that journey with them because I am not sure of the person leading and their education and their knowledge and wisdom. Like some have just come and used and then are sharing. And so I'm very hesitant because I know that negative entities can enter. And I've learned how to protect my energetic field, become more sensitive about my surroundings. And one thing that the mother did do for me is it helped me know my boundaries. And also not to, excuse me, not to let anyone just into my life, because I realize that it's all an energetic connection. And sometimes their chaos can manifest in our worlds. And I have so much to work on and release that I didn't want to collect anymore. My journey is to release all my karmic debt this lifetime.
Wow.
So, it's a work.
Good luck with that.
Right. We know that, but that's still my intention.
Yeah, totally.
So the mother brought to light certain things in my life that I needed to look at and in myself. Because
can you share an example for people just to understand, like, what kind of stuff we talk about here?
Okay. Yes. I wanted to know who my guides were. And that was an intention, was to see my guide. And I did see my guide, although we didn't have a conversation. It happened to be a man, a native man, kneeling by the water, and was dark, and he had long, beautiful black hair, but he was squatting at the water. So I'm not sure what he did. So part of my mission is to always bless the water, pray for the water, put the good vibes in it, because we know that prayer and positive input changes the molecular structure of the water, and our bodies being at least 70% water. If we do that to the water, then we're putting all of that beautiful, positive, high vibrational frequency within ourselves. And when we do that for ourselves, then it does radiate out to all of humanity and the planet. And I think that's part of our mission at this time. So it just helped me look further in myself and be more in alignment and more centered and focused and balanced, and not to be a hot reactor in the world, to respond in kind rather than in anger or anxiety. So I've seen that big change in my life because of it. It's huge.
Just, most of us are just acting out from those triggers and reacting and following, the same patterns as we were imprinted in and encoded in at the beginning of our journey. So to stop that and to take your power back and to choose, how to respond in any situation with awareness, that's kind of a pretty big deal, right? So
I think so.
What helped you to do that, apart from obviously working with the ayahuasca? Like, how do you practice this, or like how did it look like, in practice in your life?
In practice, it's a daily practice for me. I practice the gratitude, and with that has changed my thought process. I've had some traumatic brain injuries, and so looking back, I can see that my brain maybe didn't heal in the way that it could, and so this helped to bring me back to maybe where more neurotransmitters are speaking and communicating with one another, instead of explosive behavior like everybody does when they get upset. I just like take a deep breath. I remove myself from the situation. I give myself time to think about it, pray about it, so I can move forward and eliminate that chaos out of my life, because I kind of live a life kind of like a hermit in a way. And if I didn't love music and other things that keep me grounded on the planet, I would pretty much like be reclusive. So I realize that being in a human form, these are the things that I love. And so I need to participate with the world around me and other humans in a loving and kind way and a non-judgmental way. Realizing that everybody is at different levels of their evolution. And so if I can share any of my experience from some of the things that have I've experienced in my life to help them maybe not making the same mistakes and avoid a tragedy, then I'm willing to share. So I feel like right now, in the last few years, there's a group of women that live near me, and I just feel like that I'm kind of there as a mentor for them, so that they can make their lives a little simpler and easier if they're willing to receive the information that I share.
Absolutely. And we always talk about how, relationships are so important in our lives, in everybody's life, because we are these social beings and we relate to one another, and the quality of that relationship can make it or break it, right? Our life. And
it does.
I know that you have I mean, your story is incredible and amazing, but I know that you have 5 kids and you were married 3 times, correct? So you had your fair shares and adventures of relationships. So can you talk a little bit about what was the most challenging for you in the past in relationships with other people in general, and then in particular in romantic relationships? And then as went within and get to know yourself and love yourself more, how did this change and how are your relationships now?
Okay, so I was in some very volatile relationships. My first marriage, I was very young, and that was a very beautiful relationship. But something inside of me, the wildness, took over, and I allowed it to do so. And I remained single for like 8 years, and then I got pregnant with my youngest daughter. So I wanted to so-called do the right thing and got married. And my second husband had experienced trauma. His father murdered when he was age 10 that was never dealt with on so many levels. So he had all this pent up within him. And looking back, I think if I would have had been more in tune with myself, I could have helped him and led him in a different kind of way for his own healing, right? And I know that, generational trauma went onto my kids. So the best thing that I could do was to get out of that. And because it was really horrible for myself and the kids. And I didn't want them to I didn't want my daughters to feel like they had to put up with physical abuse and I didn't want my son to be an abusive man. But instead of working on myself and waiting, I jumped right into another relationship that I had. Eventually, I got married and had 2 children, 2 sons with. And that husband of 22 years is a sociopath. He's mentally manipulating, and he does it in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's very smooth about it, right? Little by little by little by little, like all of the things that he loved about me and my artistry and my creativity and my free spiritedness, little by little throughout the years, he had squelched that, kind of like put my fire out. And at one point I found myself like looking in the mirror and not knowing who I was. And I was going, this is not me. Where am I? I felt like I was in a tunnel. And so the journey began. And looking back with all of this, I can say that what it showed me was I have value as a human being, and I don't have to take abuse. And so I know my boundaries are clearly set now. And it allowed me to see that others have boundaries. And when people show you or tell you who they are, believe them, because it's true. You can't go into a relationship thinking you're going to fix somebody. It's not your job. It's their job. It's our job to work on ourselves, to become lighter, hold more light. And it's not so much about me. I pretty much do my work for me, because I realize if I stay centered and focused and balanced, then that is what I'm sending out for everyone else as we're going through this time of ascension.
Right. And as you said, oftentimes we don't have, especially women, healthy boundaries, and we go along, with abusive situations because somewhere deep down we think that's what we deserve, or that's what we are worthy of. And I think, for me, this journey was a lot of undoing this program and coming back to that self-love and loving myself. And as you said, knowing that I deserve, all the good things as everybody else, of course. And once you start to love and respect yourself more, it's easier to put a boundary and to say, this is not okay for me, while you're, at the beginning, when I was like in my 20s, I hated myself. I clearly remember, and I had very destructive relationships with other people as well, because I had a destructive relationship with myself, inside of me. And that healing, in a way, I think was a lot about learning to love and accept myself and see who I truly am. And the consequence of that was like the better boundaries and better communication and so on and so forth. Like, what do you think about this?
I believe that to be very true. I did have to learn to love myself because I didn't. And I just let people in my life use me as a doormat. I never said no. I didn't know how to say no for anything. And that brought me closer to center and to the realization. And I did have to learn to love myself in all of my so-called imperfections that we as humans have, because there is no such thing as a perfect human or a perfect body or perfect looks or any of that. And so once I started implementing self-love, when I went through my last divorce, which was 10 years ago, when I met Nina in the jungle, that's when the ball started rolling. And I came home and realized, I need to date myself. So I took myself out for delicious meals. I bought myself, because I had so many children and always worked, everybody else came first. So then I started treating myself to all the beautiful things that I loved, not extravagantly, but nurturing myself, and I gave myself time to relax. I take a lot of hot baths. I do that a lot to release and relax my tension from the exterior world. And so as I started loving myself, that let me know that I have value and that I have boundaries. And so loving yourself, you can't really truly unconditionally love anyone else unless you unconditionally love yourself. I mean, we all have issues with that, right? Totally. And you talk about the destructive behavior. I had very destructive behavior as a young person. I was wild and free and blew with the wind. And not realizing that there were consequences in the end for those actions. And so I look at all of that in very much detail now before I step forward, right? I'll allow people in to be friends, and it takes time for people to let down their masks so you can see who they really are and where they are in life. So,
true. So true.
And I just do love myself in all my imperfections, because I am imperfect on this planet, but the divine creator, I am perfect in the divine creator's eyes, right? And I have to honor that.
Yes,
very much so. Right. And I try to look at everyone when I greet people on the street and smile and say hello. I try to send love to each being, not knowing where they're at in their journey. If they may have just lost someone or their favorite pet, or are suffering from depression, because that is huge for the human population. And look at the suicide rates, and now with children as well. So that is something that really needs to be looked at. And I found myself in the seasonal depression, because I live way north where it's cold, and I'm from Northern California where it's warm, and found myself all winter being really sad and really didn't care if I was on the planet anymore. And I said, this is not good. And so I started taking my vitamin D3, which the sun provides to us. I took a trip to LA to get some sunshine, but it still quite wasn't enough. And I just made the decision to get up and come south. And I am so happy I did.
And
so
me too.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you too.
We talked a little bit about, art in general, and you are a wonderful artist. We're gonna put in the description your internet address where people can see your art. and how art is a form of therapy, even either if you do it just as a hobby or if you do it professionally. I know that you went back to school to study art, right, after our trip. That was after Peru, right?
I had just started back to school and took
Right.
3 weeks off out of my first term of college to get to go to the jungle because I had already, said I was going and paid for my trip. And so I wasn't going to let anything stop that journey because I felt it was very important on this wheel of healing that I was embarking
Absolutely.
upon.
So how would you say, art is your tool, for healing and expression? Like what can you say about that? Because I also use art, and just want to talk about how art is such a powerful form of, just tool of expression and healing, and just sometimes we don't have words for certain things, or we
That's
don't
right.
even know what is exactly that we want to express, and I feel art can be a very powerful tool, in those cases. So how do you see your art, and how your art assists you as a person, and as a spiritual being?
Well, art is something I've done all my life. And when I went back to school, um, I changed my major like 3 times because I was focusing on the material world and financial abundance. So as I would go into these majors, I was realizing, I didn't like the corporate world when I was there. I didn't really fit in. It wasn't a good fit for me. And I just made up my mind. I said, I'm just going to get my art degree like I wanted to do when I was 20. So the expression of art for me it's a release of creativity. So I do black and white film photography, and my photography is not like the general photography realm. Like if you hired a wedding photographer, I focus pretty much on intimacy and love and all the ways it's actualized in the world. So it doesn't matter who or what, right? And it could be your pet. It could be non-traditional couples like, gay and lesbian couples or the transgender community. It doesn't matter. And I try to focus in on the expression and the emotion coming out of the people when I photograph them. So to me, that is viewing the world through my lens of love and how I see it. Yeah. And then with I paint also. Actually, I can work in all mediums, but those are the 2 mediums that I pretty much have been working in the last 5 years. And so when I paint, I actually went to an intensive at a music festival and worked with David Heskin and Aloria Weaver, Amanda Sage, and Allison Gray through visionary art.
That's awesome.
And you're right. And so I learned a whole new technique, which I found totally beautiful. And I incorporate that. That's how I paint, is through a layering project of building light. And also while I'm doing that, paint has water in it, right? And so I will listen to uplifting, healing music or any music that makes me happy. So I feel like all of my paintings are alchemized with a high frequency vibration because there's water in the paint. And when I'm painting, each stroke, it's very meditative, and it's a release where I can like get out of my head, and I'm in the present moment, laying that paint down and producing this beautiful, I've been doing portraits. So that is it's meditative for me. And I also, during my divorce with my ex-husband, I did 3 years of counseling, and I did work with this one counselor, and we did do some art therapy. And basically you could go through your childhood and she would explain something and then I would draw it down. So anyone who has experienced any kind of trauma, you can pick up markers, you can pick up paint, you can express yourself and release that with love on the paper, right? And so it just helps you to know yourself better. I think everybody that whether they think they're an artist or not. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't, it doesn't matter about the quality, and don't focus on the perfectionism of it, because that's one of my things, it had to be picture perfect, and it doesn't have to be. So it's like the thoughts are in your mind, the emotions are in your heart, and then the action comes out through your hand. So it's like a 3-step process of releasing. And that's kind of the same thing you do with manifesting.
Yeah.
It's a feeling in your heart, the emotion, and the thought in your mind, and then the action of doing it. And so that's like writing in your journal, any writing, drawing, painting, even nature art, building sculptures outside. Or
do you
whatever.
Journal? Do you have a journal?
I do have a journal. I don't do it every day. Shame on me. I should, right? Daily practice. Everything you do is all about the daily practice. So, for holistic wellness of body, mind, and spirit. So my yoga, my nutrition, getting outside fresh air and sunshine, the mind, getting the therapy with a professional therapist that can help talk you through some of the things that you're feeling and thinking. And then the spiritual practice. And I do a lot of gratitude work and a lot of prayer time every morning and every evening. And working with all of those things for holistic wellness, I think, has really assisted me as far as becoming a more centered and balanced person. I know that I'm not the person that I was 10 years ago. I mean, I am me and still me, but it allowed me to flourish the gifts that the divine instilled in me and that I was created with. And I am so grateful for that. Working on non-judgment is a big one, right? Of yourself and others. So,
yeah. And we were saying yesterday how awareness is the key, and right, that awareness and that ability to reflect on yourself and what you're thinking and what you're feeling and how you're being in the world, and then to reflect on that and to notice things and then to change things that you wish to transform. So how is your experience of this awareness, and do you think that the ayahuasca was a major tool to expand our awareness and to have this reflective mindset more instilled in us?
Oh, I had started kind of the practice a little bit before I went to the jungle, but the ayahuasca just really brought me back home. And so I don't need anybody to correct me, because I'm in continual correction of myself. I'm continually aware if I made a judgmental thought or negative thought or whatever. And so it helps me to reset my thought process and how I maneuver in the world. It has really helped that way internally, in my spirit and in my heart, to change and be. I had to be, like Gandhi said, you have to be the change in the world in which you see.
Yeah. And, we are so programmed and conditioned and ignorant, in so many ways. So I feel this is a big undertaking, that deprogramming and that deconditioning and finding your own voice and finding your own truth, instead of, as you said at the beginning, relying on all the external validation or advice or what other people want you to do, and going to this internal guidance that you were referring to, and taking your life into your hands, so to say, but also taking all the responsibility for your actions, either conscious or unconscious. And I think, that is, just a never-ending process. And we were talking about it, how it's, it's a daily practice, as you said, and this is something that we continue doing. So if we're talking about integration, after the ceremonies, like, in a way, we are still in the integration. And and then it's up to us. The medicine is an ally. She is a wonderful teacher and healer, but it's ultimately up to us if we will create and uphold this practice in that everyday life, or continue to do it, or just revert back into the old patterns. And I'm sure that you also know people who work with the medicine and then they just go back to their old life and never really anything changes, fundamentally. So what would you say to people who are called to go this path and to work with this amazing medicine? What if you could, just say a few words to them? What would be your message?
I say, if you get the calling, then participate, but also know that it just doesn't stop there. It's not a one shot fix all. You have to take accountability for your own actions, but that will open the door in your mind and your heart to see your imperfections and the negative patterning, because we've all been indoctrinated, enculturated, and conditioned. And that life did not serve me well. And I feel like some of the things that I had gone through in my experiences is because I was trying to fit in to that mainstream one size fits all, everybody, the robotic life of be this, do that. It didn't serve me well. And had I embarked on this journey in my 20s, because it was in my realm, and I started participating like at 19, and then I got more indoctrinated into the Christian church. And so then I had a fight in my head about the spiritual gifts, right? Is it this? Is it that? And it took me like 30 years to finally figure out that that's not all there is. That's just a tiny slice of what we are and who we are and what is out there for us and what we came to the planet to do as humans. So I have to say, if you're going to, if it calls you to do so, just remember that there's more work to, it's just like the mother is like just the key coming into the lock and clicking it, right? So you have to open the door in your heart and your soul and in your mind. And we can't always play. I was in a state of victimhood when I went and worked with the mother, right? I knew I needed healing, but it also opened up to me so I could accept and acknowledge my own shadow. I think it's really important to look at that. And so that's where self-forgiveness comes in. And then no matter what, who or what has happened to you or been done to you, you can forgive them in peace because you have forgiven yourself, because we are not perfect. And so that's a huge repeating cycle that definitely have to break. It's the blame game and be in the victimhood. And yes, we have all suffered being on the planet because of the circumstances, because we allowed ourselves to get into those circumstances. And I look at it this way, it's always a lesson. Right? What are you going to take from it? Right. So I am more gentle with myself because I'm not perfect and I have committed crimes against humanity, just like everyone else. I have some of the people that I've really hurt in my life. I have in the past, even before I started this journey, asked them for forgiveness. Right. So if I can forgive myself for my own wrongdoing and hurting others in my shadow side, then it just makes it easier for me to forgive the next person that has wronged me. There is one person that I still haven't totally forgotten, my ex-husband who was molesting and raping my daughter. As a mother, I felt huge guilt because my daughter didn't come forward for 15 years. So it was already old news, and he was so mentally manipulating that he destroyed the family. He turned all my children against me. I was the wicked, bad one. And part of that, I'm still wearing that shoe for some of my children. So it's our family is totally not healed all the way, but things are moving forward. So I'm appreciative of that. And I got to forgive him. And sometimes I try to see him as a being of light and what his mission is, right? Maybe that was his mission this lifetime. I mean, I have no way of knowing, and our agreement on the other side was so.
Right. Yeah, these are those, when you translate these words and the forgiveness and what does that mean? And then these practical situations when, okay, it's easy to say something and how you're going to actually to put that into practice, when you experience something like that. But I think, that we have this motto, that you are the healer and love is the medicine. And as you said as well, we have the power and the responsibility to heal ourselves and to change our lives for the better. And how this is happening is through that love and acceptance that first you extend towards yourself. And once you are able to do that, because, ultimately, like, ultimately your question probably is, how did I choose this man? How did I trust this man, right? Like I picked this man, like, no matter what he did, but it was kind of my choice, the first place to pick. So it go, and then you have to look at yourself and you have to see, can I love and accept myself, even with the choices I made and my ignorance and my shortcomings and my gifts and everything who I am, fully and completely. And I strive for that, but I'm sure that I'm not 100% there yet. And I think that is absolutely the key. That love for me is that thing that brings things together and heals things. And the more I can extend that love towards myself, I'm able to include other people in that love. And I remember one teacher of mine told me once that love is all inclusive. And at that moment I was like, not for me, no, this is my circle of love, and there are people that are definitely outside of it. But since then, that's kind of my practice, to work on to extend that line, and to include more and more beings into that circle of love until I can include everybody, no matter what they did or how they express themselves. And that's definitely something that is easier said than done. So
it is. But when we do that, I think the power of prayer is amazing. And so with this human, my ex-husband, I do send him love. I try to see him as light, and I realize that he's on his own mission and he's got his own lessons. And whether he'll come out and be honest and own what he did, that's his mission, not mine. So it's been like 10 years now, so it's a little easier for me to accept who he is, but I also don't have to have him in my life.
Absolutely.
And I won't. And I don't care if I never see his face in human form ever again, right, because my life is very different now. I hold love for him as a human being, right? And also his light and his mission on the planet, right? Because everybody has a different road they're going on. So with the prayer that I've done for him, I just, pray for his protection and also for his wisdom and knowledge and his acceptance in his own brain to manifest. So
yeah, I hope to that, and sending lots of love and awakening, to him.
Yeah.
So shortly we're coming to a close or episode for today. So do you have any message to humanity, at this time? Not political or anything, but just like more spiritual, because it's kind of a unique time in history and for humanity, I think. So is there anything that you would like to send out there to our brothers and sisters?
I would like to send unconditional love to each and every one of you, and may you awaken to your total purpose and be the light that we need, because we are shrouded in darkness, but the frequency is raising. And I appreciate you and your journey, and honor yourself and the planet, and just walk lightly among us.
I hold to that. Yeah, and sending, just lots of love to our sisters and brothers, and envisioning just a beautiful bridge of light connecting our hearts with all of your hearts who are listening and who are out there, on this planet, and together we are stronger. So let's remember our connection. Let's remember what brings us together and what we all share, instead of just focusing on our differences. So until next time, we're going to say goodbye to you, and go to my website, avatarhealingarts.com, to check out all the offerings that we have right now. And if you're interested in the upcoming training to be an integration therapist with this medicine, also go to my website for more information. And please leave your comments, or if you have any suggestion with topics that you want to hear about, obviously, regarding the medicine, please get in touch with us, and subscribe and like this video and share it with your friends and family, because we rely on you as our marketing team. And sending you so much love. Until next time, lots of love from our hearts to your heart.
Many blessings.